Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 114 of the WP Café show with myself, Mark Wilkinson, and my co-host, Keith Devon. We're here usually every Friday, 1:30 UK time, to chat all things WordPress development and anything else to do with WordPress. We specifically focus on sort of things that are small agencies and freelancers, because that's kind of what we do. And we sort of chat about the things we've been doing this week, the challenges that we faced. So if that sounds like your sort of thing, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be notified of new episodes coming out. We've got a few things to chat through today, but before we do that, how have you been this week, Keith? What have you been?
Good, thanks. It's kind of flown by this week. I don't really know what I've done, but yeah, it's. I went to the O2 Arena to watch my daughter sing in the world's biggest choir on Monday evening. So she was one of 9,000 kids or something.
All singing at the same time.
All singing at the same time, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was just too late. It was like the kids were absolutely knackered. But yeah, good little concert, good experience for her. Yeah, so that was fun. But that was Monday. And then I don't know, just a few little bits and pieces this week. Nothing too exciting, really. The only big excitement was, I think, the call we had with a prospective client. Another school website, which is a bit of work that I think I'd love to win. So we had a really, really positive call, and then got a kind of initial email sent across. So we'll see how that goes. I think they're just looking for kind of estimates at the minute at this stage. But she said they were talking to 4 people in total about the project. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully we've got a good chance.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
How about yourself? How are you?
Yeah, similar, really. Just plodding along this week. It seems to have gone quick, like you say. Just lots of little bugs to deal with. Like this morning, I just spent so long. I'm sat there just thinking, I hate doing this.
Yeah.
So it was a bug where we'd been talking over the last few weeks about this idea we've had, like for SEO on job boards and things, and I noticed that. So what I'd done is I'd set the page title tag to be like this dynamic page title, like accountancy jobs in London or whatever it was. And when I put it onto this site that we're integrating it with, it just didn't work. The title tag just was back to the old one, like the I think it was just using the archive title, the standard one.
Yeah.
So I just went and looked how I did it again. And then so I did a bit of debugging, and just worked out that the filter that I was using, there seems to be the new way of doing it, which is, I think it's the filter called document title parts. And then there's the old way of doing it, which is like filtering the WP title. And I couldn't get any of them to fire. Like I had my function there, I hooked it in, and then right at the start of my function, I was just like doing, like log this, error log this, just to see nothing fired, just didn't work at all. And I'm like, what? This is ridiculous. So I'm sure this works. So I went back to my original site, and it works perfectly. So anyway, an hour and a half later, it turns out that Yoast SEO is essentially hijacking the title. Now, I haven't delved into it too much, so I apologize if I'm doing them an injustice here.
This is the meta title tag, right?
Yeah, the title tag of the page, essentially. Yeah. You see in the bit in the tab at the top.
Yeah.
And essentially, there's like the function that outputs that title has, and I don't know why they do this, it has like a pre-filter, so you can do something before the title's been generated. And then it's got like a filter that runs when the title's been generated, just before it gets returned, so that developers can change it. But if the pre-filtered one detects any sort of content, the rest of them just don't run. So what Yoast was doing is they were using the top one, the first one in the function, and passing something to it, so the rest of them don't get run. And then they hook their own filter in, WPSEO_title, to that.
Right.
Which just complicates things. So it took me ages to work it out, and I was just like,
I reckon if you'd rubber ducked that with me, I could have pointed to Yoast pretty quickly if it was something to do with the title tag on a website. But
I was pretty certain it was Yoast.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get to the bottom of it. I don't know. I just can't tie myself in knots anyway.
I know what you mean. So
I found it. Yeah.
Sometimes I get like, you're probably the same. And most people are probably the same. Whenever you're like debugging something, you get stuck down a particular like channel. Like, I'm going to attack this from this angle. Yeah. And you just like keep going and keep going and keep digging and keep digging. And occasionally it's just, you need to get your head up and go, oh, I'm digging in the wrong direction. Or like, there's other things I need to try. Like, instead of spending 3 hours digging in that direction, I probably should have just tried turning this thing on and off just in case that was it. Yeah. Like, get all the kind of easy wins out of the way first and then dig further. But I get kind of tunnel vision with stuff sometimes.
I think we all do, don't we?
Yeah.
I think I ended up this morning in a situation where, like, I thought was how can I describe it? Things kept changing behavior. So, like, I'd try one thing and then think, oh yeah, I've got an output there now, I can work with that. And then I'd do something else, and then I'd go back to that, and then it wouldn't have an output, and then I'd be like, well, this is ridiculous. Like, I haven't changed anything, and it did this before, and now it's not doing the same thing. It just got me head really spinning anyway. I think I've got a fix for it anyway. So it's
I've been in, as you know, debug hell today with something to do with Elementor. Well, my initial thought was, this is an Elementor problem, and I'm going to prove that it's an Elementor problem and wash my hands of it. But the kind of more I kind of dug into this, it was like, but it only happens when we use our shortcode. So there's definitely something about what we're doing that's causing this problem. But yeah, essentially, we're using a shortcode in Elementor to output some jobs, and on smaller screen sizes, there's a massive gap under our shortcode. But it appears that the gap is kind of outside of our shortcode output.
Yeah,
like the shortcode output itself isn't creating the gap if you like inspect it, but it is somehow. It's utterly bizarre, and I've tried turning off every CSS rule and tweaking this and tweaking that and going up the tree in terms of, right, is it this container that's set to has a weird flexbox rule or a weird like mobile specific rule? Nothing. I cannot find the problem. It's doing bizarre, my head in. And I don't know what to do now, because I've spent like hours trying to fix this issue. I'm no further along. I'm just like, this could be one of those moments where I need to get my head up and think, there is another way to do this, but I don't know what it is, and I don't know how much more time to give this, and just, I don't know, give the client their money back and say, I'm really sorry, I can't figure this out. I don't, like, when do we draw that line? I don't know. Not yet, but
not yet. I don't think, no. But
it's getting there,
just
though.
A weird one, isn't it? And we say like a big gap. It's like a 4,000 pixel gap at the bottom.
It's something to do with Flexbox. It's something to do with Flexbox, but I can't work out why. Because if I change the align self property to like start, it breaks the layout, but it fixes this gap underneath. So I'm just like,
do you know what Mark's just put in there? And I did think about this when we ended the call. Is there an unclosed div somewhere?
Maybe.
But then why wouldn't that happen on other sites that we've installed this on? I would have thought that would rear its head on other things. But
how am I going to find that? Just
don't look in the inspector. I had that the other day. Look in the source.
No, don't look in the inspector, because it self closes things.
Yeah, the inspector corrects things. It's like the formatted markup.
Yeah, it's how it's rendered. The browser is like,
that's what I'm looking for, rendered.
Fix things.
Whereas the source is like, this is what was sent to the browser.
Yeah, nice, Mark. Though I might try that. Oh goodness me! Yeah, it's really.
Or it says the opposite, like you've too many closing divs for one open div. But
yeah,
like I said, I would have thought that would cause issues on other sites.
Yeah.
But then again, with Elementor, you do have like a lot of divs, don't you? A lot of nested divs. Maybe
exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's bizarre, but yeah, I need to try to get to the bottom of that one. But yeah, that's what I've been working on. Not fun.
Oh dear. Hello, Tony. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
From Aldermaston. I have absolutely no idea where that is. It's in the UK. And it's damp. It's not actually damp here, which is amazing for the north of England. It's usually terrible. It's not too bad today.
Yeah.
And thank you for Mark for joining us, who we've already seen or on the screen. If you're excuse me, if you are joining us, I can't speak, then please let us know in the comments where you are. It'd be nice to see who is listening or watching along. And
sorry.
You can. Please interrupt.
Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted. I was just I want to know if anyone noticed our new intro last week and what they thought of it, because we didn't run it this time, but Mark recorded a snazzy little pre-recorded intro for last week's show, which we ran, and I just wanted to know people's thoughts. You don't have to say them publicly. You could just let us know privately if you want. But yeah, I'm torn between it. It's kind of nice and professional and a nice consistent way to start things off, but I also think it feels a little bit less personal, personally.
I was getting bad vibes from Keith, so I turned it off today.
I don't love it, but like I don't really know why. I don't like it. Almost feels too slick for us, like too professional. It feels like we're like got a voiceover. I know it's you, but like it feels like, you know, we're not going to go and get a voiceover artist to come and do some snazzy intro, are we? But I don't know.
I thought my voiceover was very good.
It was good. I'm not saying I'm not saying it wasn't. Anyway, let's move on from that.
Let's move on. So we've got a few things to chat through today. The first one is something that I saw that is hopefully coming in WordPress 6.8, which I believe, for those that don't know, is a mid-April launch. It looks a bit of a low-key launch, a low-key sort of release to me.
Is that because none of the automatic engineers are working on WordPress anymore?
Possibly. But there doesn't seem to be sort of like a big focus on this one. It's actually, I mean, it could be good. It could be like, let's just fix some stuff and, you know, make a release of that, which is kind of sometimes a good thing.
Yeah.
Rather than focusing on new stuff all the time, let's go back and look at the stuff that needs building on and making better and fixing the bugs, or, you know, hey. Anyway, this particular one was to do with the query block, which we used quite extensively in our recent build, actually. Did quite a lot of query block loops on different pages. And there was a few bugs with the query loop, and actually the title of this in the roadmap post on WordPress, make.wordpress.org/core is polishing the query loop. So presumably they are in the same picture, that we need to fix these things.
Yeah.
And there was an issue with sticky posts, which you, being Keith, had actually mentioned in a GitHub issue that was a problem. So hopefully they're going to be fixing that, where ignore sticky posts kind of doesn't do anything, and or it creates some weird results in the block. So, and it's very unintuitive for a user. So I thought that was an interesting one that was going to be fixed. Well, hopefully going to be fixed. So yeah, that was all. And the rest of 6.8, to be honest, like I said, there wasn't much that I thought, wow, you know, like that's going to be, there's a few design improvements, just a few tweaks to that, nothing that I thought was amazing. Some stuff coming for like classic themes as well, trying to bring stuff into classic themes as well as block themes where they can. Interesting. I know there's a lot of people want that, but you know, it's up to you. Wherever you do what you do. Nothing else that I could see that
classic
was like
themes. Oh. What does a classic theme mean these days? Who uses classic themes?
Most people.
They don't though, do they? They use okay, they do. But like, what do you mean by a classic? What's the definition of a classic theme?
I don't know is the answer, but I understand it to be a theme that doesn't have a theme, Jason.
Yeah,
I think
it's basically the block editor and the full site editor are not enabled.
I know. I would say the block editor can be enabled.
Okay,
so not the full site editor. So it's like a PHP rendered theme. You know, your templates are .php. The PHP templates, not HTML templates. That's as far as I understood it.
So people are still using the block editor. So that makes sense. Because whenever I hear classic theme these days, I think like pre-block editor, like pre-Gutenberg. But no, I don't think so. I think you're right. Yeah.
So there's a lot of what is being built that sometimes they don't get to use, but actually they could. I think that's what the sort of
that makes more
push
sense
for
then.
is.
Yeah,
I know Peter, who listens on to this podcast, I'm not sure if he's here today, has often said like there's things that we could use in the in the block editor and full site editor that would work quite well in classic themes, but not necessarily are. But why aren't they? So
there he is.
Hey, hello, Peter.
He says, hello, classic themes use customizer and don't have the site editor / full site editing. Yep, makes sense. Okay, so yeah, lots of people will still be using that. And anybody that's using something like Elementor is probably on a classic theme, although
I don't know, actually.
I'm guessing. I don't know if Elementor is compatible with full site editing in any way, or the block editor, or anything. Anyway, yeah.
It's not compatible with our shortcode at the moment, that's for sure.
It's certainly not. And that's all Elementor's fault, I'm sure of it. Yeah. So yeah, nothing too exciting then on this release, which is, I don't know.
Not massively. But I mean, that might change because it says on the post, like, none of this is set in stone. It's like stuff that we're just thinking about, and it might not be done, or new stuff might be done. So I don't know when that final list of like, these are the things that will be in the release comes. But anyway, that's that.
I really hope that we can just, I think people have said this already, that we can just like pause a bit and fix some of the stuff that we already have. Like the little things, like I've probably even mentioned this before, but the fact that when you're in like the full site editor or the block editor, you have to click on the logo of your site to kind of get back. Like that's your kind of back button. But then as soon as you're in the kind of classic dashboard, I'll call it, it's something completely different. Like that, the whole interface is completely different, and the UI and everything about it, it's garbage. Like there's so much about what's there already that's just feels so broken. And like, please, can we just fix some of that stuff? Like, even if we just made it look all the same, you know, like just trying to get some parity between the classic dashboard and the new stuff. It's, I don't know. Yeah, we just seem to keep moving forward with these things. Like, well, we're probably not anymore moving forward with any of this stuff, but like, you know, there's the whole Gutenberg roadmap, you know, the multilingual stuff, or the what do they call it? The collaboration bit, which is the next bit. It's like, wait, what? Just hang on a second. Like, can we just fix what's there and then move to that? Why are we not fixing the pages menu before we're moving into collaboration? Because like, is collaboration really the thing that's going to drive this project forward, or is it just it not being shit? I don't know. There's obviously a balance there, but it just feels like we're taking off in this direction, going so fast down this path, and then just completely ignoring the actual core experience of using WordPress, which is in that dashboard and switching between these two paradigms. It's, I don't know. Sorry, little rant came out of nowhere, but it's, I just don't understand it really. Like, if I was Matt, and I think when he did his speed build challenge, he kind of got a taste of this. Yeah. You know, if I was Matt, and you'd log into WordPress or watch someone log into WordPress, or someone who's a Squarespace. I'm not saying Squarespace is good or better in any way, but someone that's come from a non-WordPress world that wants to use your this product, watch them. Like, watch what happens. It's not good. Like, it's not good. And like, we just don't need all the fanciness. We need the core product to be better. Like, the stuff that people do 99% of the time is just like logging in, finding a page, editing a page, like writing a blog post, like all that stuff. Just like, come on, let's just stop and fix it. And if this whole drama causes that to be fixed. Yeah, causes that to be fixed, and Matt to kind of put some of the big hairy goals aside, big hairy audacious goals, put those to, like, on the back burner while, you know, stuff's going on, and maybe a few of us, not me because I don't contribute in that way, but like maybe some of the community can step in and start making some of these small improvements while the pace of change, like the pace of the development is slowed. I don't know. There you go.
A few comments, and then that leads us on to another point. So Peter says the vast majority of sites use classic themes.
Absolutely.
I don't know what the numbers are there. I don't think we can ever find out the numbers, but like we've been integrating with WordPress sites with our product I must have looked at like 500 WordPress websites. I've only ever seen one that was using the block editor, never mind using full site editing. That was nice to see, actually. But so the like so many sites just don't even use full site editing or the block editor that I've seen anyway, which is an interesting one. Elliot, thank you for joining us. To show the dashboard nav, toggle full screen mode in the block editor. Yeah, so that works in the block editor. So you can get your classic, I don't know whether that's the word, classic WordPress admin menu on the left. I always have that turned on. But it doesn't work in the site editor, obviously, because it's kind of a different environment, isn't it? Which, yeah, I mean, I don't know about you. I don't like, when you click on full site editor, I don't really like that environment. I don't really like that interface. I'd much rather the classic way of doing it. But...
Well, partly because things like clicking on a logo to go back are completely unintuitive.
Yeah.
Like, it's not... Yeah. And just the whole organization of, like, how we build things and, you know, what we call things, just being generally confusing, like templates and patterns and template parts and, like, all that stuff as well. Just not... Like... having to go into the full site editor to get to the styles, you know, the global, like, surely that global styles should be kind of front and center in that appearance section, but you seem to have to, like, go into a template or a page to access the styles and the style book and all that. It's a mess. It's a mess. I just like...
click on the styles thing now. I've hardly ever been into that, actually. So you click on full site editing, and then you've got navigation, styles, pages, templates, patterns. Well, these styles anyway. You click on styles, and then I get these two sections. I don't know what they are at the top. They look like different color palettes, but then I get color palettes below that. Then I get typography. I can't see the names of the fonts unless I hover over them. I get a capital A and a little a as the font, like, preview.
Yeah.
You know, and then to change the styles, so actually edit the styles, there's a tiny little pencil at the top.
Oh yeah, it's
and
all that stuff.
And then 90% of the screen is a template. The styles are right over on the right hand side. It just seems weird.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like the whole global style section is just seems so poor, and the way to navigate to it, and yeah, and custom CSS. Like, I know, you know, everyone's saying you don't have to use CSS these days, hooray! And it's like, oh, but if you need to, you can add it as custom CSS. It's like, good luck finding where that goes. Yeah. Like, it's just, yeah. And it's worse. The custom CSS experience is worse than it used to be because it's not
formatted, isn't it? It doesn't have the little...
It doesn't have syntax highlighting or any
for.
of that, any of the goodness that the customizer version had. So we've gone a step back. It's harder to get to. It's not as good as it was. It's just, yeah.
All this leads me into a video that I watched. We'll jump around the little list of things we have to talk about here because it all leads into a video I watched from Jamie Marsland 2 days ago, which was, does WordPress need a radical rethink? I don't know if you've seen the video, but Jamie sort of like talks about a lot of this stuff. And you know, Jamie is all up for the full site editing and block editor, has some wonderful videos explaining how to do things. So he's definitely in the camp that the block editor and the full site editing is awesome and is the way to go. But the video was essentially saying how poor a lot of this stuff is and how on earth do you expect a user to be able to do some of this stuff. And I couldn't agree more. And in his example, he showed, he talked about how many people he's trained on WordPress. And, you know, 5 years ago, he could get people sort of editing websites really quickly and understanding because they use the customizer. And obviously the customizer has drawbacks, but the example he was using, I think he said it was called the Bloxy theme, which I've never come across. But it was so easy just to be able to see the customizer. Oh, I want a new page template. I want a sidebar on the right or the left. And it was just so easy to change. In the full site editing, where would you go? Like, do you go into a page? Do you go into a template? I mean, I know we know, but it must be very difficult for a user, you know, and even like the command palette, you type that and you type page and then you get so many options with different icons. They all say page or pages. Like, what am I supposed to click on? So is there a way of well, there is a way. I just think he's right. He's essentially right. Surely we could do this so much better. Now all the building blocks are in place and the things behind the scenes. Is it not just a matter of a new admin almost?
Yeah, when is that?
Enables you to.
When is that coming? Like, where is that on the roadmap?
Well, I don't know whether is it on the roadmap.
I don't think so. Mark says, I wouldn't expect there to be any improvements in the parity with the classic dashboard because work is already underway on the new React-based admin. So there's work underway. I didn't really expect parity. Like you can't maintain these two completely different systems, and there's so much legacy with the classic dashboard, that is what I'm calling it, that I kind of wouldn't expect them really to be starting to work on that and change it. But I think my question is, why are we not focusing on this now? Because this is the initial experience of using WordPress and the day-to-day experience of using WordPress, rather than collaboration and multilingual and any other features that you can think of from the last couple of years. They're just like, yeah, that's nice, but the command palette being one, you just mentioned it. I've never used it. I'm sure people do. I'm sure some people do, but the vast majority, I'm just guessing here, but I would guess that the vast majority of WordPress users, I'm talking 98%, have never used it and may never use it. So why are we spending time on stuff like that and not stuff that people interface with every single time they use the software? Like, they can't not. So, yeah.
I'm not a fan of the new React-based.
I know, but it could be better. We are going in that direction. So,
you click on pages, well, which is interesting. Like, pages are there. Why aren't posts? So I can get a list of my pages, but I can't get a list of my posts. Right, and then to go back into the classic one, which is strange.
Yeah. You're right. I've never really understood why pages are kind of there.
And then I get all pages published, scheduled, draft. I mean, that's just across the top in the other one. I mean, it's just a different place to put it, I guess. And then I get a tiny list of pages, and then on the right-hand side, I get something to edit, which looks to me like the homepage template. Like, why is that there? It's nothing to do with pages. I never want to touch it because I've clicked into pages. And then I can look at it as a table. But if I go back, if I've selected a table view, which gives me a more traditional, list of pages, author status, which is nice. If I go back to it next time, it goes back to what it was before. It doesn't stay on a table. Surely that should remember as a user logged in that I want it as a table. Otherwise, what's the point in having that option? Because I'm not going to click every time, am I?
I'd love to know the ins and outs of how WordPress core development actually works. Like, what actually happens on those meetings? I don't know. Can you follow along on Slack and stuff like that? But like, when this is raised, for example, like we need to fix the pages menu or the classic dashboard. How does that conversation go? Or does that conversation never happen because it's just like, right, we're talking about collaboration now, and that's our sole focus. So we will not be talking about other things.
I would imagine that conversation goes along the lines of, "Oh yeah, but we don't want to do that, so forget it."
but they do want to do it. Like they are going to have to. They are going to have to do it. Presumably, and Mark says they've already started.
No, so that example that I've just given you, where I click on the pages and I get this compact list on the right with a template that I'm not even to do with pages on the right hand side. So if I brought that up in Slack, how would I move that forward as a suggestion? I would suspect that will be, well, we're not changing that. That's how we've built it. But I might be wrong.
I'd say that is I wouldn't say a bug, but like definitely a missing feature. Like you could potentially add that to GitHub as a suggested improvement, I guess. I mean, these things do actually get fixed sometimes.
Ultimately, it needs someone to own it, doesn't it? And do it.
It does.
And I can't do it because it's all in React. So
yeah.
I might have had a chance if it was in, but I've no chance now.
Yeah.
You've squashed the number of people that can actually do this stuff.
But how do they prioritize stuff? I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, how do they decide what's important now and what's needs to be done in the next 3 months, 6 months, year, 5 years? Like, why have they kept punting the dashboard to the back of the queue for so long now? It just seems strange to me.
I don't know. Courtney says, thanks, Jonas. Courtney, don't even think about contributing, because if your vision doesn't align, it won't be merged. Well, someone's got to decide what goes in and what doesn't go in, doesn't it? So I'd be interested to see, have you tried that yourself, and what was your experience? It'd be interesting to see if it was presumably not that positive based on the comment there. Right.
That's sorry. Couple of good comments here. Mark says, or take part in the discussions for existing topics. That can be tricky because there are thousands of open tasks being managed by ever fewer contributors. And Elliot says, usually something is raised in Track or GitHub that then gains traction. If it doesn't, then it's unlikely to get on the roadmap. It's about getting traction. So, yeah. I mean, how does something gain traction? Is it because one of the kind of people higher up in the hierarchy find it and just be like, yeah, we should look at this, or I'll take ownership of it because they're interested in it, rather than it just feels. It feels to me like the development of this project is very like that. It's like people have ideas, and it's just like there's a little discussion about the idea, and then it's either taken up or it's not, rather than somebody having a vision kind of top down. This is how we want things to work, and this is what we need to do to get there. It feels very much like, oh, I've had this idea for a thing. Can I do it? Can I do it? And someone will be like, go on then. Rather than like, hang on, no, that wasn't that's not part of what we're trying to achieve as a whole. That's, I don't know. It just doesn't, it's not working, is it? It's working to an extent, the current system, but like some stuff has just been too crap for too long, from my point of view. But there you go, Matt. Yeah.
I think I would agree. Yeah. Right, let's move on. Terrible brand guidelines is the next topic.
I feel bad. I kind of feel bad talking about this in a way.
I think terrible is harsh.
Oh, I don't.
Do you not? Oh,
I don't. No. So I'm obviously not going to name names, but we were sent some brand guidelines recently for a project that we may be working on. I'm always excited to get brand guidelines. I like looking at them and then starting to think about like, oh yeah, how could we interpret that into a web design? And this thing is about 40 pages, a PDF. It's something like 40 pages, 35 pages or something like that. And I think about 30 of the pages are about the logo. And it really interestingly, at the start of the document, it says, our brand is more than just a logo. Like, is it? Because that's all I can see. So it's like, I'm going to say it's a crap logo to start with. And then there's like 30 odd pages about like how not to make the logo worse. I'd argue that you can't really make it too much worse. So like, don't squish it, don't rotate it, don't change it to these colors, don't make it a square, blah, 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 blah. This is how to add it to a PDF. This is how it looks on the side of a taxi. This is how it looks. It's just awful. And then so I'm scrolling down through all this stuff, logo. And then it says, our brand. I'm like, oh, sorry, what have I been looking at so far? Because I thought these were the brand guidelines. But now I'm at the our brand section. And it was a page on typography, and it basically said we use Arial and this other font. I was like, right, great. So no typographic hierarchy, no idea about, I don't know, things like line heights or, when to use this font or that font. Just these are the two fonts. This one was using the logo. This is the other one, which was Arial, by the way, which is just like, oh my God, seriously. But yeah, so... And then it went back to the logo after that and showed the logo on a badge and the logo on a such.
Can you not take that as a positive though, in that like you've got free reign for all of those things.
Well,
Because
how
there
do
isn't
I
a
though?
brand
Because I'm
guideline.
supposed to adhere to these brand guidelines.
But
So
there
I
isn't.
now have to use a crap logo, Arial, potentially this other font, which is worse looking than Arial, if they have a license for it. And then, sorry, I didn't get to the color palette, which was horrific. So there's quite a nice color as their main brand color, and then it was black and white. I'm like, okay, fine. And then there was like the secondary color palette, and it's these like 4 or 5 colors that just look awful together and look awful with the original color. I'm just like, where did those come from? And to top it all off, this client wants how do you say it? WCAG, or how do you say that word? The accessibility guidelines. Anyway, AA accessibility compliance, and the logo, the color palette is not accessible, so I cannot use their primary color with white. So yeah, I'm just absolutely flabbergasted. And there's a couple of things. One, someone's paid money for this. Someone's received money for this. It just looks like a copy and paste job. Like someone has literally taken the brand guidelines that they've done for the 200 clients previously, swapped the color, designed a crap logo, and then that job done. So there's that. But now I'm in the situation where, like, what do I do? Because I don't think I can actually build them. I certainly can't build them an accessible website using those colors. I don't think I can even make it look good, like using those fonts and those colors. Like it would be a real challenge. So what do I do now? Do I just say, well, that's what they've asked me to do, so I'm just going to do my best? Do I raise it? They literally just had this done, so it's not like they're going to have an appetite for me to upsell them a branding like process. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? I'm in a ranty mood.
So you're not a fan then? these.
I want to know who. No, I don't want to know who did it. Actually,
I agree with a lot of it. Yes, but I think.
So what do we do now?
We do nothing at the moment because we're still in the stage of, we haven't even sent a proposal or anything, so that's fine. These are all things we need to solve as and when we're closest to the end game of getting the job or have got the job.
Yeah, do you think so? Because my natural inclination is to go back to them and say, this is how I feel, and the things aren't accessible, and it's going to be hard to make that look good because your current website uses these different fonts and these different color palette, and it actually looks quite good. So you might be going a step backwards if you make me kind of follow these guidelines.
I think this isn't the time, and Steve just says here, like, raise it, definitely raise it, and I think we should raise it definitely, but just not now's not the right time for me. If we get down to the last 1 or 2 or whatever, then yeah, we can raise it and say,
okay, we've
got some issues here, and we need.
Because you think it'll put them off, or you think that it's just not worth our time at this point?
I think a bit of both. I think, and I'm saying I agree with you, but the look and feel of something is subjective to person looking at it. They might love the logo and the color scheme. I know the color scheme's got issues with things, but there are things we can do about that. There's solutions to all this. So I just think we're not at that stage yet where we need to deal with it. And when we are at that stage, we should deal with it. Definitely, we shouldn't skirt the issue.
This is interesting. So Mark has sent a comment. If you tell them now, that might well help you win the project. I can see that working because it looks like we're giving it thought. It looks like we care. It looks like Mark says, it'll help show your expertise in accessibility. My issue with it, raising it now, is that I think people just want an easy life, don't they? And if you keep coming with like, oh, well, this is a problem, that's a problem, I don't know about this. Like if I got a builder around, to build an extension, and they're just constantly like, "Oh, that's going to be difficult. Yeah, no, that's going to be more expensive. This, that." Or you get a guy that comes around, or a team that comes around, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we can definitely do that. Yeah, I mean that's gonna. Yeah, we'll crack on. I know who you're going to hire.
Not problems.
I know who you're going to hire. The solutions person. Yeah." Yeah, so maybe it's raising it, but raising it in a way that's.
And we
positive,
did raise it in the call. We raised the issues.
I think she was already aware, wasn't she?
I can think so. I personally don't think now's the time. I think the next round is the time. If that happens,
I think you're right. I think you're right. Before things are signed off, because that wouldn't feel right if we didn't raise issues before any money changed hands. But I think you're
definitely.
right that it's too early now. Yeah.
It is interesting though, looking at different brand guidelines that you get, because some are really good, and some are not so good. But interestingly, some are like really extensive, and some are really short and succinct, but they're still good. So it's kind of, there's loads of ways to do it, and it's interesting to see how different design agencies come along with different ideas for brand guidelines. But anyway, it's nice to see they've got them for a start. Most people don't have them, so
yeah. Just made me chuckle. Mark says, "Since when has an extension ever gone to budget when the builder just says, 'Sure, let's get on with it'?" Do you know what? He's right, and actually, my analogy there was flawed, because thinking back to like tradespeople and stuff that I've hired before, if it feels like they haven't given it thought and that they've missed stuff, I'll avoid them. But you can go too far in the other direction. I think it's, you don't want to be all negative about things like, "Oh, this is all going to be so difficult." It needs to be like, here are the challenges that we're going to be facing. We've got some ideas. We can solve those, but there are challenges to be solved. I think
taking the builder's analogy, I think the important thing is, as a customer, you want to be explained to why these challenges are happening and what we can do about them. You don't want to just be left in the dark. So when we had our extension build, we obviously had a massive steel, whatever they call it, put in across the back of the house, because the wall was coming out. And the builder, when he was putting what do they call them? To hold the ceiling up
acros.
Acros, that's it. So when he's putting those up, he couldn't get them in the right position because there's something in the way in the bathroom upstairs. So he said to us, "I'm going to have to take all the tiles off the bathroom to be able to get these acros in the right place." And he was like, you could tell he was really nervous. He was like, "This is going to cost more money because we're going to have to redecorate the bathroom and everything." And he said, but having explained what it was and showing us, it was like, well, you could never know that when you quoted. Like, you would never know that until you'd literally pulled the bricks out and seen it. So we were fine. We were like, well, let's just redecorate the bathroom then. We've got the budget. Let's do that at the same time. And to be fair to him, he said, "I can take them off, like carefully, and we can put them back again." But we just said, well, what's the point? Like, it's an 8-10-year-old bathroom anyway. We may as well just do it. So everyone was happy. But if it had just come in a different attitude to that, it would have had a different outcome.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to think about that when we're chatting to customers and things.
I'm more tempted to raise it now. Just in but yeah, no, I think you're right. I think wait until we've made a little bit more progress down the line.
Yeah.
I shouldn't really be wasting my energy on something that is, we've nowhere near won the work yet. But yeah, I liked Nick's suggestion here. Highlight it as a problem that needs addressing in order to meet their objectives. Yeah, I like that. And make it clear in your proposal that you will fix it as part of your process. That was good.
Yeah,
thanks, Nick.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
2 more things. We need to wrap up. I've got to set off to pick up the kids from school in a minute. I'm going to go with the important one first, and that is WordPress London. Is it still called WordPress London, or is it now called WPLDN?
Yeah.
I think that's its name. So in February, me and Keith are doing a talk. So you should definitely come to WPLDN. It's on February the 27th.
I want to say 27th. Yeah.
Just flicking through my calendar. And we're going to talk about how we built the new website that we just built with full site editing, the Kimbolton School website. So the idea is to talk a little bit about the setup, like how we set up the projects, the theme, things we turned off to make it more compatible with what we wanted. Then we're going to look at how we delivered certain parts of the website. So we spent all yesterday afternoon sort of like listing all the things we could talk about, and the list was endless. So like we won't be able to talk about everything because we've only got 25 minutes. So we're going to pick, I don't know, 5 or 6 of the main challenges and how we delivered those challenges in the full site editor, in the block editor.
I mean, each one of them could be a talk.
Yeah, it could. It literally could, couldn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll look at those, deliver that. So if you're interested in that sort of thing and you want to come along, it'd be nice to see you in person. So hopefully you can get down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the last one on the list, you may have come across this or not, but we come across this. It's WordPress seems to have started adding a sizes auto attribute to all images. And it appears to be breaking things left, right, and center for us.
Yeah. Have we spoken about this before?
I'm not sure.
We may have done
again this week, didn't it?
Yeah, it's just something to look out for. So this is for like responsive images. And so with responsive images, you can add a source set attribute and you can tell the browser, these are all the versions of this image at different widths. So it can serve the right one.
Yeah.
In theory. So if the it's right. It's difficult because I've got to go right back to the start of the story, which I won't because I don't have enough time. But so we're talking about responsive images. So you give it a source set attribute, you list out all the images, and then you would do have a sizes attribute as well. And typically you would say something like what is it? Min width, max width. It's like a CSS query where you say like up to a certain screen size, the image will be 100%. After that, it's a maximum of X. And I think by default, WordPress would take maybe like the image size that you've selected. So if you've said like display this as a large image, the maximum width will be like 1024 pixels, for example, right? That's all very well if your image is always kind of full width, so takes up the full kind of screen or viewport. But obviously images sit within containers and there's no way to kind of represent that in your sizes attribute without being very, very labor intensive. So for every image on the site, you say, well, this is in this column, and between when it's at this screen width, that column is 230 pixels wide, so blah blah blah. It's just impossible. So what the boffins in the CSS world figured out was that we now have a lazy loading attribute, so you can declare that an image can be lazy loaded. So now the browser can load the CSS before it loads the image. So now it knows, in theory, it knows the size of the image that it's going to render before the image actually has to load. So because of that, they've introduced this as sizes equals auto keyword. So like the auto bit being the new bit. And that basically just says, if this is a lazy loaded image, wait until we know what size it is and then just like serve the correct image from the source set. That's how it's supposed to work. And it does.
It sounds great, but it doesn't appear to work.
It doesn't work because we use aspect ratio and like, what's it called? Contain. Well, it's like contain and cover, and I've completely forgotten the
object fit.
It's object fit.
Is it object fit? Something like that.
I think it is object fit. Yeah, I think that's right. So we quite often just say we want this image to be a square. So it might the original image file might be a portrait or landscape or whatever. For this image card, for this little module on the website, we want the image to render as a square. And the easiest way to do that is for just me in the CSS, just to say aspect ratio 1, object fit cover, right? And then that'll just beautifully kind of crop the image for us with CSS. It's lovely. And it always works. But the problem with that then is that the size of the image, the width of the image does not correspond to the visual rendered width that you're seeing. So it's now choosing the wrong image from the source set. So what's been happening with us is that it's been choosing an image that's too small.
Too small, yeah.
And that it appears really grainy. So we've actually, like, on most of our projects recently, we've had to go and turn this off, which is really frustrating, because potentially there's some really, really big performance improvements using this method, but it just doesn't work that well for this. And I don't know how to. Maybe we can target the specific elements where we're using object fit, like the specific blocks, and just turn it off for those, or use some kind of string replace or something. We should probably look into it more, because turning off that feature entirely does not feel right, because it is such a good performance win. But there you go. Just something, if you're wondering why your images are blurry, that might be why.
Yeah. If they are, you've got a filter, WP image tag, add auto sizes, and just return false, and it will turn it off.
Exactly.
Which is what we had to do. It just seems like a function that shouldn't do that, really. I don't know. It seems like we've added this awesome thing that's going to make everything better, and it's actually just made everything worse.
I think it makes,
it's our specific.
Yeah, I think it makes 95% of things better.
Yeah. Anyway, that's something just to watch out for. It came actually in 6.7, so it's been around since 6.7 was launched. So if you haven't seen it yet, it may be that you won't. So there you go.
Yep.
Right, we're going to have to wrap up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us as usual. We will be back. I'm saying that. Let me have a quick look in the calendar. It's yes, we will be back next week, unless anything crops up. So join us at the same time next week for another episode where we'll chat through things that have been going on in the world of WordPress. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do share it around if you can. It always helps out. And until then, we'll see you next week.
See you soon. Bye.